I was groomed and sexually violated throughout my adolescence and teen years, or what I like to refer to as my childhood. If you're not 18, you're still a child, and you're not responsible for anything that you were a part of, whether you thought back or not. Grooming is insidious, and what we're talking about this week, the specific focus in the workshop, the Survive in Spades workshop that you are at, if you didn't know that. SPADES is an acronym for the things that I and other survivors who have wonderful lives do every day to keep it that way, and how we got there. And asking for what you want involves backing up to understand why you don't. Let's back up even further. That you don't. Why you don't. What the repercussions of that are, not just to you, but to the people you profess to love. And what to do about it. Right? So yesterday, please refer to yesterday. It's on YouTube under live. Everything's on YouTube under live. I did not had time to process them properly. We're going to podcast, though, next week. So by next week, you can go under the video sections. But right now, all the playlists and the live section have the workshops we've been doing. And yesterday was the part 1 of Ask for What You Want, the A in Spades. To refresh. S, the shame is not yours. You have to start there, not just every day, but in every conversation with yourself, in every triggering moment. Every time you're deciding whether or not to jump down the rabbit hole of crazy or not, you start with, the shame is not yours. Because you have to understand the difference between shame versus guilt. So quick recap. A person without CPTSD, or complex post-traumatic stress disorder caused by repeated feelings of not being safe and not having any escape for a elongated time in childhood. And there's all kinds of ways to have CPTSD. Everything from loving parents, but you're bound in a war zone, or poverty, or you've traumatically lost people close to you, or, there's a lot of ways. But what we are doing here specifically is taking everything said by those I revere, like Anna Runkle, the Crappychildhoodfairy. You should watch everything she does. She's in my hashtags, not because I'm trying to steal her audience, but because I'm trying to send you to her. But she doesn't get sex specific, and that's where we branch off. Once I discovered that I had CPTSD, and I learned how to deal with it, and I discovered real orgasmic sex and how it can happen and in what context and with who and all these things, it's like, bleh. It literally slowed my book down by a year, because I was going to print over a year ago with my book, which centered on everything I'm saying that's all still true, but it ended at all you need is you. And that's still true. But the universe provided at just the right moment, and having found true chemical love that sprung out of a mental connection, because you should never jump into the chemical, and we're going to talk all about that. That's where I'm going with this. It's so easy to get fooled. But when I found the real thing, I realized that even though I was never a liar, I loved all 3 of my husbands, now ex-husbands, but I didn't have much to give because I was not presenting my authentic self to them. And if I was, I wouldn't have chosen them, so I'm still satisfied in my decisions. No offense. Each one of them has very strong points. Oh, you know what? The fan is on. Look at this. I got to interrupt. My child gave this to me. Watch, I'm going to turn it off. It's plugged into it's a USB. It goes into the computer. Yeah. Cool. And it's got a clock on it. But I'm just realizing it's right by the microphone, and everything up till now is probably blurry. I apologize. But back to asking for what you want. So the first thing you have to realize is that you don't. And why? And I don't mean, you may be asking for stuff at home or a car or a job or whatever. Chances are you even struggle with those things if you have CPTSD. But if you have childhood sexual assault related CPTSD, your body, at the first feelings of physical attraction, also cross-reference them with things that happened in your past. So now you're in a situation you want to be in. Like I was saying yesterday, I'm picking up off of yesterday here. So go back and review that. I'm just going to kind of through it right now. But if you're assuming best intentions on both parts, assuming you have life fit, you have intelligent fit, you appreciate their values and morals, and you have a potential partner or partner, and you're in this relationship, but all you're doing is making them happy. You're focused on their sexual needs. You're focused on their dinner, the cleanliness, the laundry, the child rearing, and you think that that is enough. And where I've seen every marriage and relationship that went wrong go wrong, if there was not abuse involved, was someone in the relationship shutting themselves down physically, and the other person either also shutting down, which affects the entire emotion of the household of the. I've seen people go for years and decades like that with their spouse. Decades without having sex with their spouse. So many people I know. And they're still in there, but nobody's happy, and they develop health problems because your sexual health is important. I mean, it's scientifically proven. I'm not going to put up articles here. Maybe I'll go look them up and attach them if anybody can't look it up on Google for yourself. I'll be happy to when I have a moment. But, I mean, men who are sexually active are less likely to develop erectile dysfunction. Men who are into their partner who is receiving on a level that the man can, or woman, I shouldn't say man, I'm sorry. Back that out. I'm gender free here. Partners. Your partner needs to be giving, but also you have to be receiving, or you can't give properly to your partner, because all you're doing is being a performance artist. And I talked at length about this in last week's the P in Spades part 1 and 2, and also yesterday. So I'm going to skirt over that. But back to the top. To ask for what you want, first you have to realize that you don't. And you don't because you're shame-based if you have CPTSD. And you're shame-based through no fault of your own, and you can get over it really quickly and easily if you just listen up. Okay? To me and other people like Anna Runkle, the Crappychildhoodfairy, who is not paying me anything, I just literally watch all of her stuff, and I realize that where it ends, we need to get more specific. We need to get more specific. So, you don't ask for what you want if you were sexually assaulted as your first sexual experience, because you associate physical pleasure with torturous guilt, shame, wrong, whatever your situation was. The physical pleasure part, unless you were violently raped, in which case, God bless, and I am so fucking sorry, and I'm not supposed to cuss. But that's just... Being groomed and violated is not the same as being terrified and hurt. And all of these things are horrifying. But what they lead to is a dissociation from your own senses of sexuality. And I literally didn't know that myself until 3 years ago, when I had an awakening, not even 3, just about 3 though, where I realized what I'd never done was, like, I chose people for life fit. I chose them for, we have something in common, we can talk, right? But never did I feel the sexual thing beyond. I did briefly, enough to get into a sexual situation with them and usually marry them. because I'm also have this sense of righteousness for the most part, that developed later in life. I was promiscuous right after my assaults, right after I got away, because that's a thing that happens. And we talked about that already in the first week with us, so go back for that. If you need to feel better and understand that you're not a bad person if you, because of the fact that you learn to dissociate from sex, if when you can't get out of it, or you don't think you can, you shut down and just let it happen so that you can walk away on the other side, right? That happens so consistently. And it makes people view us from the outside, even my own family. What's you? Married and divorced 3 times, lots of boyfriends. My last 3 were like all 15, 17, and 20 years younger than me. I'm like, yeah, I see now that was a sick pattern, not something to be glorified or exemplified. That was me living in a world where I can't compete with grown adults like I'm supposed to be, but have never felt like. Because if you have CPTSD, you get frozen somewhat, you dissociate, and you compartmentalize, but there's a part of you that's frozen at the time of your abuse. And if that time happened over a period of years, you can flip in and out of feeling exactly like you did in all of these different times, all these different ages. And this was happening to me. And it happened to me to where I became, back to the top of what I was saying, a performance artist. So all that was to explain what a performance artist is. And that is someone who wants to be in the relationship, who loves who they're with, who is with someone, hopefully, who loves them, but even if they don't, I'm going to assume that best case scenario. But if you aren't feeling on the level of receiving intimately, you will just be giving. And then your partner can't experience the full level of meltdown joy that happens when their partner is also in the same place. So you don't want to be a performance artist. So how do you not do that, right? Well, you become your authentic self. Easy peasy, right? My mouth is dry. I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. You become your authentic self. Your authentic self is your hopes and your desires and your dreams and the perfect world as you see it. No, there aren't unicorns and fairies and genies with lamps that can make all that just magically appear. But what you can do, and what led me to the point that I could overcome having sensation robbed from me, having the experience of being sexualized to the point that having feelings that were sexual, I immediately associated with bad. And so now I'm in a situation I want to be in, you want to be in, with buddies, I'm not judging here, that's real from both angles. And you start doing this thing, and you go to the end, you go through. But you, because you're not engaging, like I was just talking about, because you're not receiving, because you're only giving at this point, and also because as a childhood sexual assault former victim, we are survivors now. Some people like to go beyond surviving and saying surviving is not good enough, but I'm sorry. My experience is that I'm going to survive every day, and it's wonderful and joyous, don't get me wrong, but there's not going to come a time that I won't think about this stuff. And I can't find a better word yet except for surviving. That being said, the woman with Beyond Surviving, I can't remember her name, also good information. So asking for what you want involves realizing that you want. It involves wanting. It involves letting yourself want. And to do that, you need to reprocess your childhood experience of violation. You need to reprocess it, and you need to take the jumbled up memories we were talking about yesterday and last week at length that are hanging out in the amygdala because they do not want to get to the hippocampus. They do not want to be in a spot where you can read them, because that's, this is the fight or flight, this is the fear, this is where those the very real and accurate but jumbled up in such a way that you can't really think about it without your mind exploding. That's because you didn't cognitively process it. And that's where I discovered neuro-linguistic programming. And I literally have spent the last 3 years becoming one. I'm happy to say I am now a neuro-linguistic programmer. Practitioner, rather. Practicing program. You know what I'm saying. And what that is, it is a series of just the obvious, everything I talk about already. That's where I'm going with this. I realized I was talking to my own therapist about what's wrong with dissociation as long as I use it for good, not evil. And that ended up being a chapter in the book and part of the program, and shared with colleagues and professors asking me to use it for required reading, and a agreement with Bradley Group, the largest publisher of self-help books, that they want to publish me. Look for the GoFundMe, because it still costs money. It's a pay-to-play thing. But it's a great honor to be accepted amongst the Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Bone Broth, Kellyanne's Bone Broth Diet, the Chicken Soup for the Soul, Jack Canfield. These people, they're publishing my book. And I am going to help you change the way you look at things. I'm going to help you change the language of society. So asking for what you want from the boardroom to the bedroom. I'm going to cross this over now into language of society we always come to, because the language of society needs to change. It's why we're in this position we're in. It's why little girls and boys are sexualized. It's why we're commoditized and sold and bought, and why we refer to our virginity as something that can be bought and sold and taken and given and held and cherished. It's like whether a dick went in your body or not doesn't change who you are. You have a body, you are not your body. But society is telling you, you are your body. You are what you look like. You are who went in and out of your body. If you were victimized, I mean, for me and my own family, the uninvolved sibling is like, I don't want anything to do with you anymore. I'm like, how about respect? How about righteous? How about way to try to shape the future? How about, wow, I didn't realize you had CPTSD. And to which I would say, wow, neither did I. That's why I'm doing this, because it's life-changing. It's life-changing to get a grip. So, I'm jumping ahead here. I can't help myself. The final S in spades is spirit. And it works right back around to shame. Because spirit, you obviously immediately think of religious institutions. And I'm here to say I'm not going to talk about spirit in a religious sense, but I'm not going to scare off the religious with the way I talk about it either. I hope, at least. That's the goal. That is my intention. Spirit, where it comes into asking for what you want, also applies. I'm going to cough. It is full. Allergy ridden. Okay. Spirit is about recognizing that what lies inside of you, and this is how it all ties into asking what you want, why we have to talk about it, spirit in ask, because recognizing what you want and what you desire and what your ethics are, what your morals are, what you really believe, not just what someone tells you to, but what you should believe, that will inspire you to look at yourself differently. And I highly recommend several things, but especially neuro-linguistic programming, which is why I decided to do it myself and become an NLP. It is essentially the way I look at it. This is my definition. I at first was like, I heard the controversy, oh, an NLP, it's based on old understandings of the brain's, like, it didn't take into account new neuroscientific understanding of the brain development. But the thing is, it predicted it. And if you look at the principles of NLP, they 100% align with all of the new, not so new, just little distributed, part of the reason we're here. I say we. Sweet Survivor is a we now. I'm so excited about that. I have to edit this out, but our pages, finally, I've been working on this for months, for like a year. I had to change names, get them the same, blah, blah. And now I finally was able to merge the old Earth 2.0 shopping group for Sweet Survivor. In any case, okay. Here's what I'm going to call sex. Let's see, you think I can write backwards? Okay, if that's forwards, that's backwards. Oh my God. I'm pretty proud of that. Okay, because, you know, the camera reverses it, or it shows it like it is, and you get it backwards, and I'm not, you know, I can't go reverse this right now. So, sex, love. I'm going to have to, like, work on this skill. I think I might be pretty good at this writing backwards thing. And, oh no, this is a hard one. Intimacy. That's easy. I, same, forward, must-see. O-A. C, backwards, C, Y is pretty, there you go, intimacy. Sex, love, and intimacy. And this is what's screwing people, this is what's screwing me up. This is what I realized. Because I have CPTSD, and I'm also an HFA, formerly known as Asperger's in the United States, still known as Asperger's in the rest of the world, but I'm a high-functioning autistic. So I also have that challenge added in. We're told you want love. Love, bing, love good. You want love. And then we're told, you know what, I should like change colors. How cool would that be? I've never done this before. I tried yesterday, but it wasn't on the screen. Oops, sorry, TikTok. So love, boom, you want love. Everybody wants love. And as I was saying yesterday, you can love in a lot of ways. You can love grandma or puppies or humanity, even if you don't like them. You can love your enemy. But there's sexual love, right? So you want intimate love, you want sexual love. You're going to go from love. If you want to be with someone and like marry them and have kids and stuff, it's going to involve sex. So you think love leads to sex, right? And we're told that intimacy is part of love, and we're told that intimacy is part of sex. So, to many people, even if you don't have CPTSD, and even if you aren't a high-functioning autistic, formerly known as Asperger's, I don't know why that's funny to me. Even if you don't, it's like, this is confusing, because the thing is, you also have this hormonal reaction, right? Hormones. Can I spell hormones backwards? I'm pretty impressed with my backwards abilities. I've never tried this. Hormones. It's not so hard once you just get your head in the other way. Okay, right? So your hormones kick in when you have sex with someone. And they make you want to love them. It's just a thing. I'm not going to go into it. Look it up. So, it's easy to accidentally go into sex thinking you have found love and therefore intimacy, when really you have found sex. So sex stands on its own, and if you look at these parts, right, there's love sex, right? There's intimacy sex. There's love intimacy. All of which I go into in great detail in the book. But suffice it to say that you have sex and you think you've got love, right? No. You have sex or you have love and therefore you think you have intimacy but no sex. No. People need sex. people need physical release. Your body needs it to stay healthy. Men develop prostate cancer at tremendously higher degrees if they are not sexually active. You will retain your ability to be orgasmic if you are a man, or gain it if you are a woman. And 8 studies show, there's so many studies, I'm just going to average out numbers. I actually averaged out numbers. So all studies combined that I have seen, roughly 80% of women have never had an orgasm with another human being. Roughly 60% of women have never had an orgasm at all. That's in America. That doesn't include the countries that don't even have words for female orgasm, right? I saw a show where they interviewed, it was Syrian refugees being interviewed by a German reporter lady, and she was asking them about, I mean, these men were in their young 20s, and they were Syrian refugees now living comfortably in Germany, being interviewed about what they know about sex and women and orgasms. There's not a word for vagina. It's just down there, and someone will tell you about it someday. There's no education. In much of the world, this is not blanket, obviously, but in much of the world, we are victimized and commoditized and traded. The Maasai and many others trade women, but the Maasai notably, for livestock. You know, I was saying last week about an interview with a woman who felt sorry for us because we don't have sister wives, because, you know, and precursors to say she was traded for livestock, traded for a cow by her father when she was 14 to an older man who we'll use that term lightly, but in their culture, okay, that's what they do. But that's not okay, is where I'm going with this. So she lives out in the woods, she has kids. They trade daughters for cows when they get old enough. So then they go, and he comes back with another wife, and she's just happy. And they're both happy when he comes back with wife number 3. And she said, and I heard it out of my own, okay, I didn't understand it, but I heard the translation and read the caption with my own eyes. And she said that it was great to have more women to make more daughters to trade for more livestock. I don't find this a sweet National Geographic article. I find this horrifying and disgusting. And if you are going to be in a religion that does this sort of thing, you need to fix it. I charge you with fixing it, because it's not okay to trade your daughter for a cow, and it's not okay to have your dad tell you who gets your vagina. I mean, it's really perverted. Entire cultures where your daddy decides who's going to fuck you. Pardon my language. I said I wasn't going to cuss, but there's no other way to say it. That is not okay. I am not okay with that. Don't be okay with that. Ask for what you want on a societal level too. And go back to the top of this where I was less excited and talking more about asking for what you want on a personal level. I am very much looking forward to starting the Sunday School podcast for Those Nasty Women Talk. Please, here's the stuff that's very important, but that I hate to say. Like and subscribe. If I have 2 more YouTube subscribers, then we can go vertical, and that'll be nice. Look up my article on neuro-linguistic programming and read it. That is what I'm doing. But if you don't come to me, you can work on these ideas yourself. EMDR, neuro-linguistic programming, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. These are all things we're going to talk about next week on Don't Wait to Feel Okay to Be Okay. And obviously, why didn't you go dissociation D week? Why? Because separating the past from the present, which involves dissociation, needed to be after shame. For the sake of these are the way your mind runs down it. So if you are into this, if it's helping you, please go back on YouTube. I haven't finished getting them all into the video section, so go to the live or the current section, and it'll have everything in order from intro, SSPP, A, now A. Next week I'll see you for Don't Wait to Feel Okay, to Be Okay. And as always, you don't have to have sex this weekend just because someone else wants you to. That being said, if you cut off your partner forever and turn them into your shrink and your best friend, then you're doing your both of you a disservice. So don't do that either. Open up. Open up. We'll talk more deeply about how to do that if you want to talk one-on-one. You know how to reach me. Bye. I have a glass of Pinot Grigio. Pardon the view.